Okay, so this week we're talking about culture versus climate when you're a school leader, or any place that you are in a school. You have control of these things if you think about it. So when you talk about culture and climate, you think about, go to the next slide. They say that culture is a lot like water to a fish. They don't really know that they're in it until they're out of it. Or like air to a human being. You don't realize you're using it and you need it until you don't have it anymore. And you've probably been in situations like this where you've been someplace and you feel very uncomfortable and you're not sure why. It's because you're out of your culture that you're familiar with. So that's one way to think of school culture. Another way to think of it as at this very top of it is climate, the things that you can see, the things that are you can see right away when you walk into a school. The culture is what's underneath and how people believe and how people feel about things. A lot harder to define culture than it is climate. So talk about climate as how you perceive how things are going on campus. It's more about the clothes people wear. It's about how the halls are decorated. It's about how people engage with each other. That's climate. When you talk about culture, it's the sum total of all behaviors and interactions, attitudes, norms. Those are not things you see right away. They're things that you acquire as you've been there for a while. You figure those things out. As a new principal, it's really important that you spend some time learning how your staff interacts with each other, how they talk to each other, how they feel about kids. And you can do that through meeting with them, talking with them, and listening. And it's really important that first year that you spend some time doing that. And talk about water and air, that you've got to have positive culture. It's what you need for sustaining learning and preparation. You don't have a good school without a good culture. And if you have a toxic culture, it's really, really difficult to change. There's been places where they've come in and they've taken all the teachers out at once because they're not sustaining learning for kids. And those are places where the learning is toxic, or they have people that move in and out constantly. Toxic culture. People want to be in a positive place, most people, not all people, but it's your job as the leader to make sure that it's a positive place to be. So here's some differences between healthy cultures and toxic cultures. Healthy cultures are not just about, oh, we're happy all the time and we're positive and we're, always having a great time. It's about knowing what we really need to do for kids, working together to do that, and making sure that we're always working on a continuum. It's not about blaming people. It's not about cliques. It's not about slandering each other. Healthy cultures move forward and have positive behaviors and practices in place. So those are the difference between toxic and healthy. We're not just talking about happy cultures. We're talking about a healthy culture. And that's what we want as a school administrator. So culture has a lot of moving pieces to it. It's not something you're just going to come in and change a staff meeting and then you're going to have positive culture. You have to start with the procedures and routines, how we work together, what students are doing in the classroom, how do you mentor people, how do you resolve conflicts, what do you do with kids that are not behaving well, and what's the vision for the district or your school. You can change culture or climate easier than you can change culture. So you start at the climate, you start at the things that you do on a regular basis, and eventually that changes culture, but it takes a long time to do. They talk about a good student or good school culture has norms and values. And if you've ever been with a new principal and they want to set up a vision and a mission, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get everybody in the room to talk about what they want as a school culture and what's important to them. It's a place where people are respected, families and teachers and kids work together. It's about future, planning for the future, and that everybody's responsible for something in that environment. It's not just, oh, the teachers have to do everything, or, oh, just the principal has to do stuff. It's every single person contributing to that culture. So I said before, you could interview people and make sure you're listening. You can have a consultant. If you've got a really toxic culture, you're going to have a consultant come in and help you because it's a lot deeper and probably time-bound than you are prepared for. But as a new principal, it's really important that you don't come in and change everything automatically, because what you're telling people is everything was bad before you got there. And that's not true. There's got to be some good things that were there. You're going to create a specific vision, and then you're going to work together to carry out that vision. And and make it fun. If you've been at a school where they have a like a fill your bucket kind of idea where people are saying positive things to each other, or they've got a let's do a positive lunch and they're talking about what's good going on first, that's somebody that's working on culture and working on building a positive culture. So buy into that. Don't be one of those grumpy people sitting in the back like, oh, this is dumb. Play along because it helps build the culture. You can have as many plans as you want, but if you don't tackle your culture and make sure that your team gets along well, that your people are working together, you're not going to get anything done. You know this as a teacher, that if you don't have a positive climate in your classroom, your kids are going to rebel on you. Same thing as a principal in a school. You've got to make sure that your teams work together and are nice to each other and are working towards student learning rather than just telling them you're going to do this and you're going to do that. If you haven't read any Peter Drucker, he's fabulous. He's got the fifth discipline, and I think you do read this in the program. And I like this final slide. It's really the only thing you do that will change your school as you attune to culture and make sure that people are working together and striving for a vision. That's your job as a leader. It's not about filling out the paperwork or doing the budget or meeting with parents. You're going to have to do all those things too. But this is the real job, is making sure that your team gets along and works towards a common goal. So that's culture and climate in a nutshell. We'll be discussing that, and you've got some readings this week to do, and I'll see you in the chat board.